We're already starting our conversation, but I want to welcome Charlie Prater and Maura Akesby to our program. They're from United, and you guys are, congratulations. The budget is passed.
The budget is passed. Yay!
Yay. So it's a big undertaking. So let's kind of jump into what it was like getting that budget going and that kind of thing. You had the final vote recently. Is the fourth version of the budget?
It was come back. This is the fourth version of it. Yes, and then last meeting at the board meeting, we did approve it.
Okay. And what was the debate like as you guys went through it, and how were the versions how did the kind of versions kind of shift around and change and evolve? What was the input from the community you had that helped you kind of focus in on what the priorities might be, things like that?
Yeah, it was it was a good budget. We came up with a good budget for 26. It was a reasonable compromise among the United board members themselves, because we had different ideas about several issues, but also a good compromise with our service providers, the GRF and VMS. And we also received lots of feedback, obviously, from our residents who came to our meetings. We had several meetings to discuss the budget. So that budget evolved over time, included feedback from all the stakeholders, our residents, board members, VMS, GRF. That's why it took over 5 months and 4 versions.
Now, there's always this holding to account. We want the best possible services at the lowest possible prices. Please don't raise the assessments. Things like that are all a factor. And you guys, not only your board, but your residents, so you don't want to see your assessment go up. But there's a balancing act that has to happen, right?
It is a balancing act, and it is got to. We do. Our main priority is we want to make sure the village is on top of everything. We don't want any big surprises. We can't, major events we can't predict.
Right.
But we want to make sure that we're covered and that the residents understand that. We had a lot of input from residents this year, and it was really good. And we had a very board that was very good about everything. We didn't have any arguments. We had ideas and we shared. So that made it even better. Because when we did have changes that we wanted, it wasn't, add $6 more to the assessment. Or so. It was sort of like, okay, we need this option on our budget. So instead of sitting there and going, let's add $5, $6, $7, $8 on the assessment, let's see where we can take something down a little bit and be more efficient about that project or about that scope of work. And like I said, it went back 4 times, so it went well. The VMS worked on it with us. They're the main key of producing the numbers that we need to see.
Okay, let's go through the first slide you guys brought for us, the budget goals, like things like that. So these are some of the things you guys really wanted to make sure happen and were part of the process, right?
Yeah, I just wanted to add something to what Charlie just said.
Oh, sure.
The reason it took so long, over almost 6 months and 4 versions, it's because we had to deal with a lot of constraints and a lot of challenges. And some of them we actually did not control. For example, we're facing an aging infrastructure. The village turned 60 just a few months ago. We also faced higher labor and materials costs. 70% of our cost structure is actually labor, and we do have union contract. We also face skyrocketing utility bills. The water bill for next year will be 20% higher than this year's. So we faced all of this. And actually just yesterday, to make it even more challenging, the Fed reduced short-term interest rates by 1/4 point, which means that our investment income from our reserves funds will earn less money.
Right, because they're pretty safe. They're in T-bills and things like that.
They're in T-bills, and the T-bills will earn less money. So we need to make that up somewhere else. Also, a lot of your viewers rely on fixed income, and they're going to get less interest, which means that they're not going to be as they're not going to be able to bear higher HOA fees if interest rates keep going down. So that's why it's important to look at other ways besides just increasing HOA fees.
Absolutely.
Right.
So back to that slide, though, like you guys were talking about, I want to kind of go through this, make sure we hit all the things, right? In terms of their budget goals and short-term operating and long-term reserves and those kinds of things. So what are some of the most important things you kind of took to this budget process?
Well, I think the most important thing we had to face during this budget process was our reserve, to tell you the truth. The reserve has been in decline for quite a few years. So when you have a declining reserve and your spending is still going up,
Right.
there's a hard thing to put together there. We were very, very adamant, and we came up with some really good ideas, I think, and like you said, the Treasury and all this stuff that we get our interest is. But this reserve, for the first time in almost 8 years, we plan on having, on this chart you see there, as the spending and the reserve are going to come together, and we plan on putting about over $2 million back into the reserve in 2026.
Yeah, because there's only so many times you can go to the piggy bank, so to speak,
Exactly.
right? Before it becomes a point where like we can't cover a big emergency, or we're going to be in trouble here, right?
Yeah.
So as you can see from on that slide, you see that the assessments line has been below the expense line since 2018. That means what you just said.
Right.
We've been raiding the piggy bank, and in order to keep operating costs lower
Right.
and not increase operating assessments as high, we kept going back to the reserve. But you can't do it forever. At some
Right.
point, you need to replenish the reserve, and that's what we did. So when you look at 2026, you see that those two lines are meeting each other, meaning that the assessment is living up to the reserve. We are fully funding the reserve so
Right.
that the reserve will not drop any
Right.
further. So that was an important step that the board took this year.
I think that was the most important step we took.
Right.
to tell you the
Stop
truth.
raiding the piggy bank, so to speak.
Stop the
Now, in
bleeding
terms
of
of
the
the reserve, I mean, so people understand, the reserve is really not meant to be for regular cost annual budget kind of things, right? It's meant to
Correct.
be for unexpected, roof repairs and things
Exactly.
like that come up that are like
Paving.
unforeseen in terms of the regular cost of just doing business,
Right.
Right.
Oh, that's very important, because we do have a small contingency fund also, which we're funding more money. The contingency fund is important, because if we do have a minor project that all of a sudden we need more money for, and it's
Right.
legitimate, and we say, yes, we
Dry
need
rock
this.
repair, there's more than we found once we open up the wall kind of thing.
Yeah, we don't have
Yep.
to raid the reserve, and that's important. And that's another fund that has actually been increased very slowly, but it's been increasing as time goes by.
And so, what is the kind of the threshold that you don't want to go under when you have a reserve? Is there a certain percentage that you kind of, as the best practices and things like that?
That's a very good question. The most experts say that we should not drop below 30%.
Okay.
The issue is we've been below 30% for a while now, and we're actually hitting 22%.
Okay.
And we are expected to go to 19% by 2030. So even though we did increase reserves, and we want to continue doing that, we are facing so many challenges. We're facing new legislation, for example, AB 1572.
Right.
We are facing, which I just mentioned, lower interest rates, which will impact invest income, and the higher costs of labor and materials. So it's going to take a lot of effort to make sure that we stabilize the reserve at around in the high teens before we can move up in the 20s and then hopefully to 30 in the years to come. But it's very important that we all realize that HOA fees cannot be the only answer to this.
Right.
We cannot replenish reserves and all this just by asking people for more HOA fees going forward. We also need to find a balance between what's clearly necessary and what's comfortably desirable. We need to make some choices.
Right.
We also need to find efficiencies. And for that, we need a culture of innovation. And unfortunately, we're still working on that. Sometimes it feels like to find an efficiency, it's like catching lightning in a bottle.
Well, yeah, because
So
I
we
mean,
need to work
it's not
on-
like this is the first time you've ever looked for inefficiencies, right? 'Cause
Right.
every year, you guys are looking at ways to cut costs. So is there a certain point where you get to the bone and you're like, there's nowhere else to cut here,
That's
right?
right.
And that happens. It's like, you can only cut, for instance, landscaping so much. Okay, our landscaping people do a great job. You really don't want to take that away. If anything, we need to increase. But we're asking them to stay strong with what they're going and go forward with what they have, without any cuts. Okay, the cuts that are coming from other things. Maintenance and construction, another very important entity in this village. Those two, we did not try to cut them at all. Okay, so going forward, hopefully next year we can come up with some new ideas to get some new revenue.
Right.
We're always looking for new revenue.
There you go. We rent out the pools to kids on the weekends. How about AB? I want to talk a little bit more about that. How is that going to be, maybe, we don't know yet, the future impacting what's going on?
Okay, well, AB 1572.
1572, yes.
That is a strange saying. It's still being interpreted up in Sacramento. We haven't had the big guidelines. This is what we do.
Right.
We do have one thing that happens with United. We have potable water. We do not have recycled water on this side of the El Toro.
Right.
Some reason it got skipped. So until we hear, pardon me, until we hear what AB 1572 tells us what we have to do, we gotta wait. We have to wait and see. We had an opportunity. In fact, this last month we had an opportunity to do 1,000 square feet of turf removal. Okay, which costs about $6 a foot to remove. They found a $5 rebate for up to 1,000 feet. Well, right away we go, hey, let's get this 1,000 feet. It's only going to cost us $1 a square foot.
Right.
So we find in these little things as we go forward, but until we get the interpretation of 1572, we're sort of tied down to make any projections. Yes, it's going to cost us.
Just to expand on that, though,
Yeah.
it is the law,
Right.
and it will go effective January 1/29. So it basically bans the use of drinking water for non-functional turf.
Right.
And it's going to happen. We're still looking for the implementation of it. And there are several scenarios about how much it's going to cost us, from a few $1 million to over $6 million. So it's a widespread range of estimates, but we're going to pay something. We don't know exactly how much, but it's going to be something, and it's going to hit our 27 and 28 budgets, unfortunately,
Right.
because we didn't budget anything for it in the 26 budget. So which means those 2 years, 27 and 28, are going to bear the brunt of whatever AB 1572 ends up being. So we need to be on the lookout for that.
Yeah, it's coming. And then we also talked about, we just turned 60 here in the village,
We
right?
did. That's
right.
And aging infrastructure is always a barrel of fun.
Oh,
It's either a roof, or it's dry rot, or it's balconies, or it's things like that. And so
All of it.
do you foresee a lot more of this? In United, have you guys taken care of some of the major big ticket items already, or are there still big things to come?
We are working on the infrastructure like you wouldn't believe. The sewer lines, for instance, are being relined. And they're doing a great job. It's expensive.
Right.
Okay, we have to go outside to get the professional company to do this. Water intrusion, it happens, and we're seeing a lot of that. We're over 60. Things are tweaking at over 60. We all know that.
Yeah, whether you're a person or a house.
Yeah. Somebody says, yeah, I can tell that we've graduated over 60 in our infrastructure. Roofing is being done. Re-roofing is being done. The electrical system, some of the panels, we're in a project there to get those upgraded. So it's ongoing. It will keep on going. I think we have a good steady pace. Okay, we're not lightning rod, but we are moving and be efficiency about all of this.
Well, let's take a look at some of the numbers, and you guys can walk me through the operating costs, the United Reserve, and things like that. And so I want to take a look at the chart here, 2026 versus the assessments on there.
Okay.
So 2025 versus the assessments there. So what are we looking at here, and what has changed? What are you guys happy with, afraid of?
Well, if you look, do you want to go
So
down
yeah,
there?
the basic assessment is going to increase by about $65.76, and but we're getting a property insurance break savings of $10
Right, you guys teamed up with the
because
other
we teamed
HOA?
up with Third,
Right.
which was great. That allowed us to get more favorable market conditions. It allowed us to, since the business is bigger, the two HOAs together, that allowed us to get better pricing. So we got that $10 per month per man or per month for everyone. So the bottom line for the monthly assessment is an increase of $55.76. So as you can see in that slide, the basic monthly assessments will increase by 8.6%. It will go from $761 this year to $826.78 next year.
And this is also a result of not dipping into the reserve to kind of cover some of the basic costs too.
Exactly.
So that's why the kind of the 8% is a little bit of a bump that people weren't expecting, or is a little more than usual, or
Most of it is reserve, actually.
yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
most of it is reserved.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And so the reserve was compared to 2025 and 26. That's an interesting switch there too.
Yeah, if you go to the next slide, we
Sure.
can actually see the
assessments.
the
There we
key
go.
factors. And as you can see, the first line there is $40. The reserves went up by $38 and contingencies by $2. So that's $40 out of the $65. So we're really putting the money in the reserves for the future,
Right.
not just to operate next year.
That's the replenishment that you guys were talking about.
Correct.
And then, like you said, the sewer and the electricity and those kind of things. Everything's just there's realities of those costs, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, like I said, it comes down bottom line, we're looking at a 55.76 for our assessment. That does not include property taxes. Now, we don't have property taxes on that because everybody gets a different property tax bill.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not included until we get our final numbers from that. Our savings on the $10, just to let people know, since we did get in with Third on the insurance, believe it or not, in June 1st is when all that changes. It's going to happen again, and we're already next month having our first meeting to work on the insurance for next year.
Okay,
In June,
wow.
the change. I will say Daniels does a great job of putting this together with BMS and working with the brokers, and we have a new program that we're looking at. We couldn't look at it for this year because timing. That's why we're meeting now, because we want to start the ball rolling. It's a new program, but hopefully could even save us more money. So it's coming, and there'll be reports on that after every meeting.
Does it get you get a sense of this revolving door, perpetual, like, oh gosh, we just finished this, now we're on to this one and this kind of thing, in order to keep united folks and the community up to this par that they expect, right? It's kind of a constant battle.
Actually, the budgeting process, which takes half a year, is just one part of our governance.
Right.
We also have financial statements reviews of our finances once a month. And Charlie here chairs the finance committee for that. We have an annual audit that goes through all expenses, making sure that everything is reasonable and accurate. So we have a variety of tools and mechanisms to make sure that the governance for this HOA from a financial perspective is sound. And this budgeting, that doesn't start in March and ends in September.
Right.
It's year-round.
It's year-round.
Discussions, Charlie mentioned insurance, all kinds of programs we talked about. And it comes to fruition during the budgeting process.
Right. And the committee work, that's where the kind of the real nuts and bolts of everything, that's where you get to see the sausage made, right?
There you go. That's when you try to put. And then what the finance committee does, it will have their meeting, and we will make recommendations to the board, and then they vote on it to the board. And one thing we have, and every mutual has this, is every 3 years. Every year you change 3 positions of the board. So that's constantly changing too. Now, a term is 3 years. So right now, I hope everybody's out there is voting. I'm going to put that in here. Next week, the voting be done, and we'll see how we'll have a live vote count process for that. Back to financing. We love to see people come to these meetings, come to the finance meetings, come to the board meetings. You will be heard. That's what we need. We need input.
I'm going to ask you guys a question. This is a lot of work. It's a lot hard. So what's the best part about serving on an HOA like this?
Well, several things. Number one, it's just the education. I mean, since I joined the board just about 6 months ago, I just learned so much about what the HOA is, how it interacts with the trust, how what the expenses are, why they are what they are, and how they can be controlled and to what extent. And also creating friendships at the board level and meeting people and getting to know people's opinions about so many different subjects. It's very enriching, and I think it's a very good reason to serve.
Yeah, and same thing. The board, we're meeting people that are affecting the community, and that's what you're affecting the community in whole. And when you're walking, I do a lot of walking. Everybody walks a lot in this village, and it's sort of funny to people go, "Hey, I know you. You're Charlie." So that comes up, and it's good. And I talk to everybody. I mean, I want to hear what the village says, not what I say.
Right.
But I will take that back to the board, and it's a good feeling. You know, okay, you know what? We are improving things. We're going to go forward, moving things. Murad is a great asset to this board. He came in between elections, and with his financial knowledge, it's just we are seeing things that we would probably not see as a whole.
Thank you, Charlie.
And it's a good board. United is doing a good job.
All right. Well, from United, Charlie and Murad, thank you guys so much for joining us and giving us this update. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. You're watching This Day. We'll be right back.